Hi there, welcome to the Waxelene webinar Q&A session. I'm sitting here with Catalina Valentino, who is the lead investor for Waxelene. Say hello, Kat.
Hello, hi everyone.
So thanks for joining in. I'm going to do a quick pitch about Waxelene and get everybody up to date, and then we'll hear from Kat on what she thinks about the Waxelene investment opportunity, and then we will go from there if we have any questions. So Waxelene was started in 2011. So it's been around a while. We've gained a huge following, a lot of retail distribution over the years, being in CVS Pharmacy, Whole Foods, garnered a lot of attention from celebrities and even early on in our day. So it's been a very popular product. The main reason for the popularity of the flagship product is the patented aeration process that makes it super effective for dry skin and eczema. So we've taken this one product and turned it into multiple products and variations, and have launched some mud masks. Now we're in the process of creating a range with Skin Safe. And Skin Safe is the leading raters of sensitive skincare products. So they do research and also guidance. They help people who have sensitive skin find the right products for them. And they've been working with the Mayo Clinic for a long time. So they have a lot of data and most importantly to us, a huge database of patients who have sensitive skin, different types of sensitive skin. So now we're able to really test and develop the products that we're making with them. And what's going to be really unique about them is that we're, as in keeping with the brand, it's going to be very organic and no ingredients that aren't natural. And when I say natural, I just mean not petroleum-based products, mostly just ingredients that you would find maybe in your kitchen even. And so those types of products combined with the sensitive skin aspect of it are going to be really valuable to a lot of people. It's really life-changing, just like the original Waxelene products. And that's why we're raising this funds, is to get those new products launched, get them on the shelves as quickly as possible, do the focus group testing. And then, of course, there's a certain amount of marketing and sampling that needs to go along with the launching of a new product. And so that's really where I like to leave it. There's a lot more details I could go into, but that's the most important part about why we're raising funds. Company, it's not a new company. We've been around, and we're going to launch these products one way or the other, but with the funding, we can do them all at once and get a lot more products and have a lot quicker route to market. And so at this point, I'd like to hand it over to Catalina, see what she has to say about this exciting opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you discussed the product side of things really well there. That was fantastic. I think for me, a lot of it, it did come down to the product and the team for me. There was two different things, as well as the market opportunity. Really, I mean, the products that you've got, you said you've got a patented aeration process. You've got unique formula that actually works. And not only does it, without going into specifics of the product, but it actually genuinely works. You've got the before and after results of people who have used it. You've got the testimonials as well from some fantastic celebrities who have openly endorsed it without you even asking them to, not paid for partnerships, which I think is, a huge success in itself to showcase that the products work. And if the products work, that celebrities are endorsing it openly without needing to be paid for it or anything. I think that goes to show how marketable the product is and how genuinely life-changing it can be as well for people. So the product itself is a huge asset to the company and to where the investment could go, because of course the potential in the market is huge. You've got case studies of examples like Burt's Bees and all those sorts of brands as well who have been very, very successful. So the market's there, it's ready, people are using it. You, like you said, you've been around for 11 years or so, and that in itself is an achievement. You know, not many people make it that far, not many companies do. But also, one of the things that really struck me with Waxelene was the sustainability angle as well. You know, that's a big focus for you, and not only the organic side of things, but actually the plastic as well. I know you're trying to reduce plastic and all sorts of other different things as well that you're doing personally with the ocean cleanups. I think you're doing, Todd, or something like that. I mean, you're personally really invested into sustainability as well, not just the company, which is fantastic. And that's where the market's going. I mean, right now I'm in Dubai at COP28, literally talking about the future of sustainability, and it's going far, you know. And so things like this really make a big difference to any company, but really also the financial planning is something which I hope that you'll touch upon shortly, because that's something that's quite a USP. When founders are trying to raise investment, they don't really know their numbers, they're not very strategic with it, they don't really know where it's going to go, and they kind of think that they need to raise capital, right? They don't really know what they're going to do with it, but they just think it's part of the process. But you've actually got a plan for it. You've got some real good financial modeling that you put in place as well. You're very good at that. So, you know, I think maybe that might be the next thing to talk about here.
Yeah, thank you for that, Kat. And exciting to be at COP28. I'm sure you've had a long day already. So yeah, good question about that. That is a good point. Fundraising, we have raised money in the past. And so I know the experience on both sides of not having the financing, which yeah, that's a lot of companies feel that. And then also how much financing do you need? That is a question I ask people, founders. It's a tough one. It puts you in a really tough spot. It's a question I ask myself for this a lot. Like, how much is, you know, you don't want to take too much money. You don't want to sell too much equity, of course, but you don't want, you know, you want to be really careful with how you spend the money and efficient and have really key strategies in place. I think a lot of the really I say easy components, but the stuff that's going to come really naturally is actually ordering the ingredients and the tins. I've been doing that for 11 years, and ordering the, you know, getting products made and the logistical side of it. Those numbers can be relatively easy to project, just given the unit sales that you're planning, you know, how many you're going to make, how much is that going to cost. I think the more challenging part of the projections is growing the team and looking at the capitalization tables and the organizational chart and saying, okay, here's where we could use people, but we don't have anyone. And then as we grow, that role's really that's the next role we're gonna need to hire. And a lot of times you have to hire before. I know that's something we've had a hard time with. Me personally, like doing 2 jobs at once while you're trying to, you know, free up the capital to bring someone in. It's much easier to bring somebody in and then have a runway, so to speak, give them a few months. Once they start doing their job, then they're going to pay for themselves. So the timing on expanding the team is really the biggest challenge that people overlook a lot of times when you're doing the projection sheets. Even it's really easy to be like, okay, we're going to buy 1,000 jars here, but you know, where do you put the people and when?
Absolutely. I mean, yeah. I mean, that goes to show exactly the sort of skills that you have as a founder, which for me, I was quite impressed as well. You've got quite a lot going for you there. But also, I mean, there's so much detail that you went into on the WeFunder page as well. You know, the projections that you put into there, your exit strategy, everything. You know, I mean, you don't necessarily have to touch upon it now, but perhaps where somebody can find that would be really good.
Yeah, that's a good, you know, that's a really good point, especially for this discussion, to talk about that, because that is another good part of investing. I take our investors really seriously. I know everybody works hard for their money, and it is an investment where there's a high risk, and a high return. So you're hoping that, this company is going to sell one day, or there's going to be a merger type of event. And, the fact is that may or may not happen. And a lot of times, sitting in one spot one day and then 5 years later selling the company, it's hard to predict exactly what's going to happen with a lot of companies. And my first companies that I sold a restaurant and a retail store. You don't get a ton of money for those. People don't, I mean, we say, take a restaurant, for example. How much is that going to move the needle? How much money is that really going to generate revenue wise? So when a company is coming to acquire, say, Waxelene, for example, that's what they're looking at, is how much revenue is that going to add to their business just right away, because that's what makes their business more valuable. So they can come in and buy certain companies that are immediately going to have an impact on their bottom line and top line, and the net worth of the larger company at stake. So revenue is really important, and there's different multiples in different industries based on exactly how that's going to impact the portfolio of the company that's purchasing it. So these natural personal care companies do really, really well in sales. Unlike a restaurant, it's like the exact opposite, where companies really like them because it's steady revenue, it's repeatable, and there's good margins. It's one of the fastest growing industries, and there's just so many reasons why they get a high price. And that's one of the really important things on the WeFunder page, is those exit comps. And that's not even that's just a few of them. Some of those are a little bit older. There was a new one. There was a $1.5 billion acquisition just recently. Another one, L'Oreal and Shiseido, they're the big companies that are going to be purchasing in that higher end range. And there's only so many of those. And companies like Waxelene do end up selling for $1 billion. So it is a possibility. I don't necessarily think that that's the target. And of course, as an investor, it would probably take longer to get to that point. But there's some different sweet spots. Basically at $10 million, I've researched this a lot, and I've talked to a lot of these investors, and the biggest VCs and consumer product groups that actually purchase these companies, like TSG Consumer Partners, for example. They're really straightforward about it, because they have criteria that is really specific for each company that's doing this acquisition. They're really very specific about what they're looking for. So some of those companies are looking for an earlier on business that they want to grow and expand. And so for an organic personal care company, they're looking for something in the $2 to $5 million range. They can come in, they can buy the company for $8 to $10 million. And that's really in the range. Waxelene's pretty close to being in this bucket. And I had a call literally last week with somebody who was interested in purchasing Waxelene at that range. He's like, well, if it was 2 million, we'd have. He was really excited about it. When he heard the revenue, it's like, I could see it's really disappointed. He's like, oh, we have to get to 2 million, because the company, like, that's just not how their business works. They have to they can only buy companies that have 2 million in revenue or more. So then you get the real sweet spot, though, is at $10 million in annual revenue. That's where you're getting the 3 to 5x multiples, sometimes even 6 or 7 times. So that instantly puts the company into the $50 million value range. And I think there's also, when you look at the organic personal care companies and such, that's getting to that revenue stage is very doable. And that's something that in our projections, we can reach that just by expanding this range. To start growing a company beyond $15-20 million in revenue can also be a whole nother challenge that I was talking about with the personnel and everything. So that's really the sweet spot we're looking for to sell. is that 10 to $20 million revenue range where there'll be lots of buyers. We can get to that point, really easily, and with a relatively low risk, given the age of our company and everything. So yeah, I think that's thanks for asking that question, Kat, because I think that's a really important point here, that it's not just, a company that's really cool and has a cool product, which it is, but we also do have a strategy, and it's very realistic from an investment standpoint. It's a good opportunity as an investor. I'm not trying to say that it's a low risk, it's not like a blue chip stock or anything like that, but as far as if you're going to take a chance on a company, we're as good as any, in my opinion.
Yep, absolutely.
So at this point, do you have any other things to add, Kat?
I mean, I guess at this point, most people have looked at some sort of a deck or on the WeFunder page, right? So maybe it's not necessarily worth going into some more of the specifics. I was thinking about sort of highlighting a few more things around maybe the team and stuff like that, and potentially and talking about things that are already on the deck. I guess the one thing for me that I always like to know is where investment will be spent, but I guess you probably got that on some sort of investment deck.
Yeah, there's little bits on that. I don't know if I've gone into detail too much. I did on WeFunder a little, but certainly can add some color there, because that is a really good question that everyone's going to want to know. So really specifically, straight away, bringing in for the focus groups are going to cost money that it's not a huge return on investment early on those focus groups. Obviously, it builds rapport around the products, and it's an important part of the development. So those types of costs with the research and development, and I say the groups because we've actually done a lot of the R&D already. But any additional, there's still a lot more of the R&D development, just the lab time and those ingredients and everything, and then getting it tested, actual development of the product. It's not free. It's not super insanely expensive either, but like I said, it's just from a business standpoint, it's not a cost of goods sold. The money doesn't just come right back in. So that's the main component. And then the other aspect of it that is going to be capital intensive is the sampling and the advertising. We do a lot of grassroots. That's how Waxelene's got started, is with all our grassroots marketing. But really, so we'll do that too, of course. But really want to, make sure that that people find the product, where our customers are already buying, say, the large jar. We can put little samples inside the large jars. It's a couple bucks here and there, and it adds up. After you do 1,000 samples, that's 2,000, 5,000, 10,000. They can go out there, but as you know, with our Waxelene products, and I've been using these body washes, and really, it's the best. I've never used anything as good. So I know people who like it, like they're gonna like it. It's just, we'll have just like that's how we've been really successful with the multi-purpose ointment. Is we give out samples a lot, and then nowadays we just do the 100% satisfaction guarantee. And then that way people try it, and people don't return it very often just because it works really well. So kind of using that same strategy of just giving the samples out and getting the messaging in front of people so they even know that it exists, just on the website and everything. And then there's the personnel aspect that I spoke about earlier, of being able to bring in people when we need someone, if there's just a gap where we're feeling overwhelmed, we can bring in the necessary personnel resources.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. Oh, well, I think that's mostly all I can think of for now. I think you've answered some brilliant questions there.
Thank you. And so at this time, then we can open it up if anyone who's on the attendees wants to put anything into the Q&A. There's a little Q&A pop-up window. At least it pops up on mine. And then you can just put in into the open questions if there's any questions in here. There's one asking about how Waxing got started. Let me see. I've never done this on a webinar. I'm going to click a button that says answer live, and we're going to see what happens. Yeah, anyway, it didn't seem to do anything on the screen, but yeah, so Waxing got started essentially as a way to, we were making another product that was going to use petroleum mouse jelly as a base and couldn't find a really good alternative, and ended up realizing that there was a big need in the market for that. And then in developing it, created this aeration process. And so like this product, it was just one of those ones where I'm trying it and all the friends are trying it and everyone's like, you have to make this, this is amazing. And I noticed right away my chap lips were better, and I'm like, okay, this is one of those stories you read about where you accidentally make some amazing product in the bathtub. And so then here I am 10 years later, just living my life, or living Waxelene's life. And yeah, it's been a great journey. And yeah, so then there's another question: revenue, margins, and where do we expect the company to be in 2 years? All good questions. So the revenue is 850,000 last year. We're actually going to be about the same this year. In the years previous, we had substantial growth, 40-50% year over year. So a little disappointed on the growth rate, but there's been a lot of growth around the new products internally, and we've overcome a bunch of hurdles in getting our manufacturing settled. So definitely had a good year in revenue, in my opinion, even though it's below the projections. But and we haven't finished the year, so we could come on strong. December is always a really big month for us, so it's gonna be okay. And growing in 2 years, so the revenue is really going to expand rapidly because we have set all these things in place, particularly around launching the new products. So over the next 2 years, you can imagine that 2024, by this time, Christmas season of 2024, with all these body washes and different flavors of Waxelene. I don't know if I mentioned that. It's a little sneak peek of some of the different flavors we're going to have for the lip tints in particular. And with all the different body wash, shampoo, conditioner, and the different sizes. One thing that's really cool about those, I do want to mention, since I have a chance, I haven't talked about it much, is that they are going to be the sustainable packaging aspect you talked about, Kat, with we're going to use the aluminum packaging, and then we'll have these refillable bottles. So you can buy a big gallon, 4-liter jug of the refill, and then that will really reduce the packaging, and it also reduces the cost for the customers. So now they're getting this amazing organic body wash for really, on a per ounce basis, the same as I'll try to say it nicely, but the products that don't have as high quality ingredients, let's say it that way. And yeah, so that's those products are going to be really amazing. And so you can imagine, with all those refill bottles and everything going out, by this time next year, it's really going to have a lot of momentum. And then in 2 years, that 2025 is where now all of a sudden we've set up for even more products to be built into this. And that really gets a bigger overview of what the company and what the brand really stands for. Every time we add a new product, it's like a new layer of the onion peeling open, and just learning more about who we are and what we're doing for sustainability.
Brilliant. I think you've covered quite a lot there.
Thank you. I haven't been accused of talking too little very often. I tend to go, our work meetings they're thorough, tend to last the full session. We don't go out short very often. I do like to hear about what's happening and get all the details and on everything. And don't like to rush through things too much. So I will open it up. I'm not seeing any other questions popping in. Oh, Dwight Kramer has raised his hand, which is actually I'm not seeing.
There
So
should be like a Q&A somewhere at the bottom. Dwight, if
yeah,
you want to ask a question.
yeah, I don't think I can bring you up on the screen, Dwight, but if you go into the Q&A, oh, there it is. Uh,
Yay.
he was just pressing the button and gave a
Ah,
hello. I imagine a good acknowledgement of all the information I just put out there. And yeah, so if nobody else has, okay, yeah, Dwight's wondering how many folks are on. So we've had about 4 or 5 different people come on and off. Right now, we've got 5 people on total, but yeah, there's been a couple other in and out of the meeting. And what we're doing is we're recording this so that we can share it. We'll share it on socials. A lot of times people don't want to, this isn't the perfect time, but they'll be able to get all the information and answers to the questions. They just won't be able to ask questions in time. We also do have 2 more. I'm doing these webinars tomorrow and the day after. I don't think Kat's going to be on them because it'll be like 2 in the morning in Dubai, but yeah, so but I do want to thank everybody who did show up and listen and who's listening on the recordings. And I want to give a special thanks to Kat for taking the time out after a busy day at COP28. Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to add, Kat, real quick before we wrap up?
one last thing that Dwight has asked is where if we've addressed the use of the proceeds. We have earlier in the discussion, but perhaps if you want to take a look, then you can go to the WeFunder page, which I think is wefunder.com/Waxelene, I believe, something along those lines. So to have a look there if you'd like, and hopefully this will be distributed somewhere so you can have a little look, or feel free to just DM Todd and set up a meeting if that's something you wanted to have a look at. Yeah, final thoughts. I mean, I covered quite a lot in the earlier parts where I was sort of discussing why I'd invested, and obviously ultimately down to the product, the market potential, and the team. Those, I think, are the 3 things for me. And I'm excited. I'm excited as to what this can be, and hopefully we can drive this forward together.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on, Kat. It was really great to have you. And I'm just now seeing Dwight's question down here popping into my feed. And I did answer, yeah, earlier in the recording. You can watch over and I'll do a quick recap for you. That the proceeds are strictly going to be used for the product development of this new range, which includes the ingredients as well as the lab time and the labor, but also the testings. We're going to do the focus group testing with SkinSafe, which is amazing because we have access to patients who we actually know what their skin sensitivities are caused by, and we can test it on all these different people. So that's going to be a big expense, and as well as the advertising and the marketing and the free samples that we'll have to give out to get people excited about the new product. And then lastly, the personnel that needs to be brought in to facilitate all that. So pretty straightforward. Yeah, and so if there's no other questions, then oh, there we go, more questions. You're welcome, Dwight. And yeah, it's been really lovely to have everybody on here, and I hope it's helpful for people to get those questions answered and learn a little bit more about the company. And everyone's excited to invest. We really appreciate all the investors, and like I know that everyone works hard for their money, and I'm going to work hard to make sure that we turn it over as quickly as we can and get this company to, first of all, do all the great things that it's here to do, and then to be acquired so that it can continue to do all the great things that it's been, it's legacy brand. People have called it a legacy brand as I've talked to some of these investors. So really excited to get all the investors involved, and really appreciate everyone who does invest. And so please do invest, even if it's just $100. And please tell all your friends and get everyone in. And that's what makes it a community round. And that's how everyone can get a small piece or a big piece, whatever piece they want, but still help the company get the money that the company needs by getting a lot of people involved, as opposed to just like one investor who has $1 million. So thanks again. And I will stop the recording here and thank everybody for joining.